third graders. We are still trying to locate a given point on the number line, and we're dealing with fractions that are greater than 1. And I know that I've talked to my class over the last couple days, and I see that my students are struggling, a lot of them, partitioning the number line once we get past 1. So today we're going to look at some ways of what's actually happening to this number line, okay? So the first thing we're going to do today is we're going to break apart our number line so we can actually see what's happening when we're partitioning. So let's take a look. So a lot of us have been making number lines. We know we can use this number line to count 0, 1, 2, and we know this keeps on going. Well, have you ever wondered why you put so much space in between these numbers? It's because these fractions that we're working with fall in between this because they're not whole, okay? So let's take a look at what this number line looks like broken into pieces so that we can look at this fraction or partition it. Okay, so first of all, we're going to locate 4 thirds. Now, very quickly, let's review what the numerator and the denominator mean in a fraction. I still have talked to some students who are struggling with this. Okay, the denominator tells you how many pieces your whole should be broken into. Your numerator tells you how many parts are shaded or how many total pieces that you have in altogether. So here's how I was explaining to my students earlier, and I don't know, this seemed to help some. So here's what we're gonna do. So I know that I need to break this number line into 3 parts. Just judging or just looking at my number line, I know that I'm dealing with 2 holes here because I have a hole here and I have a hole here. So let's actually break these holes apart, this number line apart, so that we can actually see what's happening. Okay, so here's one hole. And here's another hole. Now, going back to my fraction, this denominator right here tells me that I need to break this part of the number line into 3 pieces, and I need to break this part of the number line in 3 pieces. So, let's do that. I only need to make 2 hash marks to partition this into thirds. So 1, 2, 3. And then I'm going to do the same thing for this part of the number line. 1, 2, 3. So right here, I was told by the denominator that I need to partition my shape into thirds. Now, the numerator right up here tells me that I need to shade or show or mark 4 thirds. So let's do that. 2, 3. So I've got one whole shape and I'm going into another one. 4. So I shaded 4 of the thirds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, let's put this number line back together because we know when we draw a number line, it does not look like this. We don't leave these spaces here. It should look like this. So let's put this on this number line. Okay, we're still trying to show 4 thirds. We're still going to partition each whole into thirds. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, I've got 1, 2, 3 in this hole. Then I'm moving on to my next part of the number line, and I've got to partition that into thirds. And I've got 1, 2, 3. So now we're going to label our number line. So remember, if we're at 0, we have nothing. and we broke our shape into thirds, so it's 0 thirds. Okay, if we move over, we've got 1 third, move over one more, 2 thirds. Then when we get to 1, we have 3 thirds. That means we have a whole, 3 thirds. And we're going to move over to our next hash mark, and there's 4 thirds, because 1, 2, 3, 4 thirds is what we have. We've got 5 thirds, and then we've got 6 thirds. Okay, and of course we were looking for 4 thirds, and there it is. Okay, so I don't know if that helped anybody. I talked to some of my students today and just kind of broke this number line apart, because I know once people started getting past 1, all kinds of kind of crazy stuff started happening over here. So let's look at one more thing, or one more way to look at how to put this number on the number line. Okay, if you remember, before we left school, I think everybody had kind of been using some fraction strips. So this is just another way to look at this problem that we're trying to put on the number line. So first of all, I know that I'm dealing with thirds, 4 thirds. Okay, so first of all, I'm gonna fold my fraction strip into thirds, and I'm actually going to tape that up there so that it's easy to see. Okay, and so let's ask ourselves, we know that we need 4 thirds, and looking at this fraction strip right here, I see 1, 2, 3 thirds. Well, I need one more third. I need 4. So that means I'm going to need another fraction strip, which I have, that I'm going to fold into thirds. Okay. And of course, hopefully you can see 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to tape this one up here so we can see that too. All right, so now, whoops, let's move that over just a little bit so we can see it. I guess it'll just be okay. Okay, so now we are looking for 4 thirds. So let's actually shade those in on our model here, on our fraction strips. So there's 1 third, 2 thirds, 3 thirds, and notice 3 thirds is one whole fraction strip, or one whole rectangle, and 4 thirds. Okay, so if you look at this, excuse me, what we did on this model, we have one whole filled up or shaded, and then we have a little bit shaded, or 1/3 into the next shape shaded. So let's look at what that would look like, how we could put that on the number line again. Okay, I'm going to start at 0. And again, thinking about the number line being broken up in 2 parts, or 2 holes, just like our fraction strips are here, we're going to do the same thing. Okay, so from here to here represents this fraction strip, and then when we have 1 to 2, that represents our second fraction strip. See, we have 1, 2 fraction strips. Okay, so of course we need to do the same thing that we did up here. We need to break it into thirds. This needs to be broken into thirds. This needs to be broken into thirds. Okay, and then of course we would label, and we've already found that above, so we're not gonna, whoops, 0, 1/3, not 4th, 2 thirds, 3 thirds. Now, look what happens when you get to 3 thirds. Notice that you're at one whole. Hey, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's a whole fraction strip that's shaded. That means this whole part of the number line should be shaded. Okay, and then we're even going past 1 to the next hash mark, which would be 4/3. Okay, and as you can see, what our number line is telling us is that we have 1 and a little bit more, or in this case, it would be 4/3. Okay, so I hope that makes sense for some. I hope that clarifies for some. See you next time. Bye.